Hello everyone, my name is Allegra Integra, and today I am going to review the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of 2021 to see how I've been doing and do I need to update them. I do not know how to do video in my editing software, which I do all of my editing and all of my recording on my phone. So I do have some limitations there, but I did watch the video and made some notes, so I will be able to do that. I will also link my 2021 goals video down below if you want to hold me accountable. I promise that I did watch it and that I am actually telling you the truth about where I stand on these goals. But if you want to hold me accountable, feel free to do so. My first goal that I set for 2021 was to read 40 books. And my reasoning for this was I read 45 books in 2020, and I assumed, mostly correctly, that the second half of 2021 was going to be more social, so I might not want to spend as much time reading. However, at the time of me recording this, and it's near the end of June, I have read 39 books, and I am close to finishing 2 more, 6 months into the year. So I'm clearly well ahead of hitting that goal. So I am planning on upping that goal to something like 70. I haven't decided exactly what. I don't think I'm going to be able to hit 100. I don't think I'm even going to be able to double that goal because, as I predicted in January, I do have a more robust social calendar. I do live in a part of the world where I have easy access to a vaccine. Most of my friends have been vaccinated and everything has opened up. Even though my social life is ramping up, I am also finding myself with more free time to read because I'm no longer doom scrolling, and I am actually feeling a lot better about my ability to concentrate, and it's really helped with my reading. I'm not exactly sure where I want those. I'm tentatively going to set my year goal to 70, and then, in about 3 months I'll look at that again. But I'm really glad that I have blown this goal out of the water. The next goal that I had set for 2021 was to read at least 6 nonfiction books. I am not as far ahead on this goal as I am on my overall book reading goal, but I am further ahead than I kind of had hoped. I am about right on track. I've read 3, I believe, nonfiction books. In the Dream House, Emotional Agility, and You Should Talk to Someone. Again, I can't remember the author's name. And I think I might have read a memoir as well. So clearly I didn't research too well before I started recording this, but I will on my way of reading at least 6 nonfiction books. I'm currently reading a nonfiction book, and no, I've also read Shrill. But I read Shrill at the beginning of this month, which is a memoir. And a Samantha Irby book. So yeah, I'm at 5 nonfiction books. I might kind of modify this goal for the nonfiction books to not include memoirs. Not because there's anything wrong with memoirs, but I read them a lot more like I read fiction. So we will see how that goes. I'm kind of modifying it then to want to be 6 nonfiction books that are not memoirs. So they are educational, research books, those types of things. And if that's the case, then I have read 2. But I have several on the back burner and plans to read them. I want to read Disfigured, I want to read Disability, Visibility, and then I have a couple different books that I'm reading about the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as general history books and some science books. So while I'm not quite where I wanted to be in this goal, since I'm modifying it a little bit, I am absolutely sure that I'm going to meet this goal by the end of the year. I also said that I wanted to read more poetry, but I didn't put a number on it, and I have not read that much poetry, partly because I have struggled to find poetry that I am really connecting with. I think I've read 4 books of poetry, and 2 of those I gave 2 stars. If anyone has any recommendations, no, I read 5, but if anyone has any recommendations, I would really appreciate that. I am finding that I am not enjoying the Rupi Kaur style poetry, and I'm getting more into lyrical or longer form poetry. Let me know what poetry you've been reading, and I will check it out. This next goal that I'm going to talk about is probably going to take the lion's share of this video. I said at the beginning of the year that I want to read more diversely, and specifically that I wanted to read more own voices books when we're talking about queer literature and queer representation in fiction. there have been a number of wonderful conversations about what does it mean to read more diversely, why, particularly why are white booktubers, white readers, white reviewers like myself choosing to read diversely? Is it for internet points? Is it because we are truly trying to learn about these different cultures so we can better advocate while also staying in our lane? As well as a lot of conversations about how own voices, the term own voices, has kind of been co-opted by publishing companies, and in some cases is being used to out people before they're ready to be out, as well as suggesting that somebody isn't a member of a group that they are, and like trying to get people to prove that they're a member of a group. So this is something that I am kind of like going to probably process privately to see what it actually means for me to read diversely and why. I do still think it's important for me to continue to read fiction from people of color, people whose life experiences are different from mine, people from other countries. All of those things are important to me, but why am I doing that, and what types of books am I reading for that? Fiction is fantastic. It can help with empathy. There's a ton of studies on that. But I look at the nonfiction I've been reading, and I'm not reading diversely there. So what does that mean? Why would I look at my fiction for diverse authorship, but not my nonfiction when we're talking about educating ourselves about issues? Fiction is fantastic. It can really help with a lot of things, but it's fiction. It's not reality by its very definition. So that's something I've been thinking about. I do think that if we're going to go by like very strict like statistics about am I reading books by people who are in marginalized groups, I do think that I'm doing a pretty good job of that. I actually think a majority of the books, of the fiction books that I've read, are by women of color. I don't have the stats up in front of me, but this is something that I can always continue to challenge myself as to why I want to do this. Am I actually reading these books for the right reasons? And what are the right reasons when we talk about that? I want to make sure that I'm uplifting marginalized individuals who can truly speak to this more than I can in their own experiences. I will link, I will specifically put here like Lo had a wonderful video on why are you reading diversely, which I think everyone should watch. With that being said, as far as wanting to read more literature fiction by queer individuals, I don't think I've been succeeding on that as much as I had hoped by this time. I do have a number of books in my upcoming TBRs that I think are going to help with that. It's not really something I necessarily have always kept tabs on. It's actually just how I naturally read. But yeah, I can always do better in this arena, and a lot of that is by listening and not talking. I also stated that I wanted to read at least 3 translated books, and I have read 3 translated books. That is such a low bar, but again, when I was planning on only reading 40 books in the year, I wanted to be realistic about the books I already owned and the books that I had on hold at the library versus like upcoming releases, those types of things. But I have read 3 translated books this year. I have read Tender is the Flesh, The Vegetarian, and Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I have a number of books, not a number of books, but I have a few books that I recently purchased, which we'll get into that in shortly, that are translated as well. So I'm already beating that goal. Since I am upping the amount of books that I want to read this year in general, I'm also going to up that goal to at least 6. Again, that's pretty low, but I read less than a lot of other people do on BookTube, and I want to make sure that I'm not reading translated works I'm uninterested in, or that are being read just to read them's sake, if that makes sense. So far, I have at least somewhat enjoyed all of the translated books that I've read. I'm not sure if some of my frustration with The Vegetarian, for example, was because of translation issues, but I am excited to continue to try to read more diversely and read books outside of Canada, the United States, and England by reading more translated works as well. And there's that term, reading more diversely. Why am I reading more diversely? Just reading other people's experiences, learning more, both through fiction and nonfiction. So speaking of like books that I'd already owned, I wanted to try to read my backlog of my physical TBR. If you watch that video, you'll see me hold up a pile of books that I already owned. That pile has gotten a lot bigger, and in the pile in that original video, I have read one of those books. I'm currently reading another one. But yeah, I definitely fell off the wagon of book buying, even though I am still a library user. I'm sure it's not upside down this time. But I'm not too mad about it because I have read so much this year. But I am trying to catch up on the books I already owned, as well as some you can see here that I recently purchased. I talked about those in my most recent book haul. What can I say? Indie bookstores, you have my heart, and it was lovely to be able to be somewhere in person. And now that I'm reading more than I have since I was a child, I don't feel too bad about it. But I am, again, trying to curb my book spending so I can catch up on that backlog. I also said that I wanted to allow myself to DNF books, and at the time that I made the goal video, I had already DNF'd one, and I have DNF'd another book since then. I haven't read many books that I hated this year. There have been several 3 stars, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it didn't blow me away. So I don't mind that I haven't DNF'd very many books. I've only had a few 1 and 2 star books this year. I am still giving myself permission to not finish books, and what's happening more and more is I might pick up a book from the library or add a book to like my Goodreads list or my Storygraph list, and then I will periodically scroll through those and go, what? I don't actually want to read this. I just kind of bought into the hype. Even if I pick the book up from the library and I kind of read the synopsis again and realize I'm not feeling this right now, I just return it as soon as I can so the next person can get it. So while I haven't DNF'd a ton of books, I've given myself permission to not even start several books that I thought I absolutely had to read because of the buzz, or because I happened to get them on the library loan list and they'd been on there forever. And that's actually been a huge weight off my shoulders, especially since I have a physical TBR that has grown this year instead of shrunk like I wanted it to. And last but not least, I stated that I wanted to read The Lord of the Rings again this year. We are halfway through the year and I have not picked up Lord of the Rings. However, that is a book that I like to read in the fall, particularly in September. If you have read Lord of the Rings or you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, that would make sense as it does start on September 25th, I believe. It's been a long time, so please don't get mad if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's September 25th, and I plan on picking it up this fall. It is on my to-do list. I have not forgotten about it, and I am super excited to fall back into that world and read something that will hopefully heal my heart a little bit. It's just one of those comfort books for me. Those are my 2021 goal updates. I think I'm doing pretty good. If you have any goals that you've been working on, reading or otherwise, go ahead and let me know. I am very proud of myself for already hitting my initial book reading goal of 40 books. By the time this posts, I will definitely have surpassed that. It's been an interesting first half of the year. I can't believe we're already halfway through this year. That's what everybody says. And I am looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 6 months. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.